Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Xenoblade Chronicles 2 review. No, not the review for the game itself, because, you know, the game is 5 months old, where have you guys been? No, this is a review for the version 1.4.0 updates that had been released just under a week ago, and this is a very important one. I don't usually do reviews or any features regarding updates, but this one that we got last week is definitely the most important update when it comes to charting the path that the game's going to be taking in the near future when more updates and DLC are released until this fall. So, what exactly does the update mean for the game? As you guys are no doubt aware by now, the quantity of things that we got in this new update, while there weren't very many of them, they are certainly very important in their own way. They are without a question the biggest game changers that this game has ever faced, and in summation, essentially what this is that we get things like more mods for Poppi that you can actually purchase from the new bards. I believe you can also get the Elemental Core Light in front of the Spirit Crucible Elpis, and the most obvious changes would be the two new blades that were made available. One of the blades were for free, and the other one is paid DLC. So the first one is T-elos. T-elos was the free blade that was made available. As you guys are probably no doubt aware by now, T-elos has one of the highest drop rates out of all the rare blades that were available, with the only prerequisite being actually completing the game for the first time. As long as you beat the game, then you get access to this blade much more quickly. I've gotten plenty of comments of people that said they opened up like one rare core and they got her immediately. She's a very powerful blade, and in my opinion, I'd actually say that she is probably one of the best blades right now, if not the very best. She's really good. If you guys haven't seen my video, you really do need to see that one, because it just has me kind of going over what makes her skills so unique. Now, the thing about T-elos that I also wanted to say is that there were plenty of things that make her so good, and you can tell that the developers knew that it would be a lot of work just to get her affinity chart completed, and I feel that that's a very intentional design choice on their parts. What I mean by this is that because she's only available when you've beaten the game, I know that a lot of newer players are wondering to themselves, once the credits roll, what exactly do we do here? Where do we go from now? And the answer would be T-elos. T-elos gives incentive for doing things like exploring the rest of the world, finding new things to do, finishing the other quests, and if you're too intimidated by the super bosses, T-elos is like the perfect answer to every single boss that you've seen. As you guys probably know by now, the Heaven Seeker passive that she has, whenever her driver, or even ally drivers, as I learned quite recently, whenever anyone dies, she actually gets a huge damage boost, so none of the super bosses will pose any threat to her, and she's really good. This is kind of like the developer's way of saying, okay, well, we do know that you will have quite a bit of work to do before you reach the quote-unquote post-game builds, or the complete progression, as it were. So T-elos is kind of going to be your shortcut. Here you go, she's for free, go ahead and get it. And the way that I see it, too, is that T-elos is like the perfect marketing scheme, like the perfect advertisement. As you guys know, when New Game Plus update came out, in the previous updates, there was like 7 new blades, and out of those 7 new blades, I think 2 of them would be considered OP, and then the rest of them would be ranging from decent to solid. You know, they're all fairly good, the Torna blades. They're all nice, and it's kind of the developer's way of showing that you can get all this stuff and more if you purchase the DLC, and the first DLC blade that we got was released with the introduction of version 1.4.0, which is Poppi Buster. Poppi Buster is such an interesting blade because he, or she, if you want to talk about Poppi Mark II, it's such an interesting blade because, like, there's all these different requirements available for the affinity charts. Clearly, it was meant to be for people that were already well-versed into late-game stuff. They have most of the map unlocked, they have pretty much every, or nearly every unique monster found and defeated, maybe their party setups are now complete. But the whole point of Poppi Buster is that because it's so easy to access this one, let's make the assumption that you're a completely new player and you bought the DLC, then what's going to happen here is that you will beat Chapter 5, and then you can go to Tora's house, do this quest, finish the quest, get a very powerful shield hammer, but by virtue of the affinity charts, a lot of things will actually be blocked off from you until you progress further into the main story. So this is a really nice go-between in that you will have access to the blade through paid DLC, but it's not instantly pay to win just yet. And honestly, by and large, the DLC model that they have with Xenoblade Chronicles 2, I actually quite enjoy it. Like I said earlier, up until this point, Poppi was the only DLC blade that we actually had to pay out of our pockets for. And even so, the expansion pack that is coming out, like, well, it's going to be doling out the different DLCs as time goes by. Honestly, considering that it only costs $20 and how many hours that it'll give to us, well, just to put in perspective, I know a lot of people complained about the Fire Emblem Warriors DLC. I have my own complaints about that too. But the way that I see it, though, is that those were 3 DLCs, and admittedly, yes, many assets were reused in creating those DLCs, but then think about how each of those packs, each pack that came out would give, for $20, 8 hours per pack. So for a grand total of, let's say, 24, and let's say you never touch it again, 24 hours for $20 is a lot more than most AAA games. And like, you know, I come from Canada. In Canada, you look at games, full AAA titles that cost $80 Canadian, and that gives you, what, like 15 hours? It's still a pretty good deal, in my opinion. And like I said before, when it comes to DLC of any game, really, it's just more of the stuff that you've already seen. So if you didn't like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and so that, like, more DLC isn't going to change your minds. But if you love Xenoblade Chronicles 2, then congratulations, this $20 DLC pack. I mean, even now, with all the free updates we've been getting, we've already gleaned so many new hours of playtime with these new updates, and honestly, that's what makes me so excited. And what this update means for the future is that, like, when you consider the fact that T-elos is such a powerful blade, definitely the most powerful one that you can get for free, and then the increased availability of all of Poppi's components, whether it's through buying things through Ether Crystals, or getting the Master Mods, or the Light Core, which was completely based on RNG, now that we can purchase those, it's like the developer is hinting towards the bigger things that will be happening later this year. Now, this could either mean one of 2 things. I already did imply that maybe the developers are planning for something, or it might mean that developers are like, okay, so you guys probably want to just get the max of everything, so here you go, here's an update that'll make it easier for you, and then we're never going to touch this game again. But when you consider that DLCs are still over the horizon, well, then I guess we can make the assumption that some big things are happening. We already know that the challenge mode will be happening very, very soon. And the cool thing about T-elos and Poppi is that the new DLC blades are coming out. The bar has been set very, very high. I mean, like, there's so many things about T-elos that we're still learning even right now. I mean, earlier just today, I believe it was like a level 3 combo on a Tyranitar Kuradil that was preparing his Ultra Annihilation Flare, and I interrupted it with the level 3. She's so broken, and honestly, I can just expect that in the future, there will be more blades of that caliber, and I cannot wait. I think it's because the developers want to make sure that we have an idea that our purchases will be justified, and honestly, that's just kind of the best thing ever that you can expect from any video game developer. Now, the one last thing I want to talk about regarding the updates is that no, hard mode hasn't been released yet. Of course, challenge mode is still on the way. There have been hints on the developer notes saying that hard mode is going to sort of like be underway, not anytime soon from what I understand, but what I do know is that hard mode, the reason why it hasn't been released is because it's going to be more than just increasing the levels and damage and HP of the enemies. Obviously that would be the easiest thing to do, that would be the most boring thing to do, in my opinion, and the way that I see it though is that the way challenge is done in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, we have to consider that not everyone has the super OP setups that we've tried to introduce here on the channel, but at the same time there are going to be some needs for people that don't even necessarily watch the video that you're watching right now or on the channel that you're on right now, but rather people that have already found their own way, and we need to find some sort of outlet to actually meet the requirements or meet the challenges for those people to meet their appetites. And that's kind of what it is though, like to increase the HP of the bosses here, that sounds nice, but considering that most people do cap damage per line anyway, you don't have to work, like, no, you have to think about something more than that. Not to mention that we have already seen that bosses like Gladiator or Ryan could be the world's easiest boss if you can get a chain attack in time, or he'll be the world's most unfair boss if you don't even have anywhere close to like a Judgment Day mode setup. And you also have to consider that, again, there's only so much HP that a character can have, and to increase the damage would just mean that, oh, well, you're either going to get insta-killed or you have to insta-kill them first. So there's plenty of things, and I can't imagine what exactly it is that they have planned. Not to mention there's also the talk of challenge mode. I actually had a discussion with a viewer the other day saying that the reason why most of the builds that we have are so powerful is just because we abuse chain spam builds, and we can't help but imagine that we don't know what exactly challenge mode will entail. Will it be preset loadouts that we have to play with? Will it mean that certain things or options will be restricted? Or will we have all of our tools available, and will it be much easier for people like us that have been playing this game for 500 hours plus? So there's plenty of things still on the horizon, and honestly, version 1.4.0 is the developer's way of telling us that you gotta get ready for this, because something is on the horizon and we want to make sure that everyone will be able to enjoy it in a timely fashion. Obviously, if you are new to the game and you're still trying to make your way through, there are still plenty of resources available, i.e. my channel. There are plenty of things that you can do to help get yourselves caught up for when the DLC does arrive. We live in very exciting times, ladies and gentlemen, and honestly, version 1.4.0 is the perfect way of telling us that the best is still yet to come.